So here you go. I got fancy because I was doing it on my computer. So the first one, you see that I put the subject in bold and the verb in what's it called? Italics. So my dog is the subject. Now why is it two words? Because if I just had marked dog as the noun, we wouldn't have all the information about this dog that we need in order to identify it. So if we said dog is friendly and dog is the subject, what's this my floating around? In the next lecture, we'll talk about the difference between the my and the dog and how they fit together. But for now, we're going to treat them, and for the rest of the semester, we're going to treat them as one unit, this functional unit, this unit that does something called the subject. And the subject can be two words, it can be more words. And as you start doing your assignment, you'll see that subjects can be very long indeed. Okay, so the first one, verb is. Subject is my dog. Is describes the state, so that's the verb. My dog is this thing that the state is true of. Okay, let's move to the second one. Again, what's the verb? Wears. Just a one-word verb here, so that makes it pretty straightforward. But again, a two-word subject. And this example, we can really see why a subject has to be, in this case, bigger than one word, because Jane wouldn't give us all the information, and Fonda wouldn't give us all the information. The third one, birds have two legs. This is a very simple one. One word subject, one word verb. So why do some subjects have two words and some only one? Hopefully you can answer that question by now, but if not, I think you should go read your textbook a little bit and also read the grammar handbook. And I'm going to put some suggestions of grammar handbooks up on the website. But basically, some subjects have two words because a subject has to describe, let me say it differently, the subject has to give enough information in the description to identify, without a shadow of a doubt, what it is. What entity, what thing, what person, what animal, whatever you like, what idea that the sentence is about. The main character in the movie is sometimes not going to be able to be described with just one word. Okay? So, clauses sounded a bit complicated when we started, but for the purposes of what we're doing here, to identify a clause, you're going to only ever need to identify the verb and identify the subject, and then you've got it. And if you've got a sentence with two clauses, you can find the beginning of the next clause by, again, looking for the verb and the subject. In English, subjects and verbs tend to come right at the beginning of a clause. So basically, you're going to be ignoring a whole lot of stuff at the end of a sentence. And if you remember, Jane Fonda wears lycra. We didn't do anything with lycra. And that's because of the way English works, that's sort of a freebie. We need it, obviously, to make it a meaningful grammatical sentence. But for what we're doing here, identifying clauses, the object is pretty irrelevant. We're going to talk more about that as time goes by. There's a song about that. But for now, we're really, really focusing on subjects and verbs. So, subject and the verb are the grammatical core of a unit of meaning, which is the independent clause. So an independent clause is the simplest kind of sentence. You can have an independent clause that's just one, let me go back. You can have an independent clause which is just one subject, one verb. So Jane slept, independent clause, perfectly grammatical sentence, only got two words in it, just a subject and a verb. Beautiful. Okay, we were here before. I got excited, I pressed a button. A clause is a grammatical unit built around a subject and a verb. A sentence is a unit of meaning. A sentence can be made up of several clauses. Okay, so the hierarchy looks like this. Sentence on the top can be made up of clauses, and see those parentheses around clause? That just means that that's optional. You can have a complete sentence without having more than one clause. As well, you can have many more than two clauses in a sentence because we've got these ways that we join clauses together. We're not going to be spending much time on the way we join clauses together in this particular unit in this week, but next week we're going to get all excited about that. Okay, now we look at the third level down. The clause always has a subject and a verb in it. Okay. Oh, look, I did say we were going to do it. Silly me. Independent clauses can only be joined to each other in certain ways in a sentence. So, how we join them together depends on the relationship that we want to show between them. So, I've put some fancy ways to do it here. The first one is when we don't use any words, and again, remember we're talking about writing here. If we were saying this and it was just spoken and not written, we'd have a certain kind of intonation, so a certain way we'd say it. Jane Fonda wears lycra, Jane Goodall wears cotton. So we have a semicolon here. A semicolon can only join two independent clauses. It's only valid between two independent clauses. That is, two clauses that can stand alone as sentences in their own right. Likewise, these, what we're going to call coordinating conjunctions, and we're going to spend more time with them, like and but, can only join independent clauses together, and they're always preceded with a comma. So Jane Fonda wears lycra, comma, and Jane Goodall wears cotton. Jane Fonda wears lycra, comma, but Jane Goodall wears cotton. So we're joining these two together. I could make that second sentence longer still by adding another and. Jane Fonda wears lycra and Jane Goodall wears cotton, and who's another Jane? Jane Simpson. She was a professor of mine when I was an undergraduate. And Jane Simpson wears silk. That's true. So we can say Jane Fonda wears lycra and Jane Goodall wears cotton and Jane Simpson wears silk and Fred Bloggs wears jeans, and you get the picture. And can join as many independent clauses together as makes sense for you as the creator of a sentence. You can also do that technically with semicolons, but it looks funny. Usually people limit themselves to one semicolon in a sentence, and but is not so easy, though you can technically do it. Okay. Whoa! So here we are with a map of the hierarchy. You see, all I've marked is the subject and the verb. We've got two two-word subjects, two one-word verbs. There's stuff at the end of the clause, as I mentioned before. We need it for the meaning of the sentence to be complete, but it doesn't participate in the structures that we're looking at. You don't need an object. That's what the thing after the verb is. You don't need an object to have a grammatical sentence. They are important objects, but not for our purposes. Another thing that we need to know is that verb forms change in response to the content of subjects and not objects. Other languages are different, but you might have seen in the margin of one of your papers SVA or subject verb. That's the thing that agrees. So if you've got a plural subject and a present tense verb, there's not going to be an S ending. If you've got a third person singular subject like he, you're going to have to put an S on it. So he sleeps every day or he naps every day at 3 p.m. is different from they nap every day at 3 p.m. And in written English, we require that S. It's a sort of extra agreement between saying I'm talking about a singular subject and I have a singular verb. So this slide is basically a summary of what we've talked about. And the last bullet point is like I slept well. There's no object there. Well is an adverb. It's not a noun. It's not an object. So you can also say, what do you do when you get home from work? You can say, I run. That's a fine sentence. No object. Okay. This is just me being a bit silly, but my sentence about Jane Fonda and her lycra and Jane Goodall and her cotton, you should check out whether that could be true or not. Okay, that's the end. That was quick. So now you're going to have some reading to follow up with. The first task that you have is to read Chapter 1 of Grammar That Works. This is the textbook on your syllabus and textbook page of the Blackboard site. Read page 1 onwards and read up until you finish reading about subjects and verbs. There's going to be a quiz based on this material. It will be in the assignment section. There will be a quiz on that week 1 page. And take a look at your group assignment to start identifying subjects and verbs in the text. So go to the wiki, check out which group you're in, and start fiddling around. You're going to have to make an agreement with your group about who's doing what, but it wouldn't hurt to get a start, even if you haven't made the decisions with your group yet. All right? See you next lecture. Bye.